We're going to shift gears from basketball. We're going to go to a sport we were talking about in between the break. Probably a sport that is well represented in our area.
Right, absolutely.
When you talk about Hononegah and you talk about Dakota, you also have to throw in a really good program over at Harlem. And with us right now, we have the new head coach at Harlem, a guy that we're familiar with, Patrick Babcock. And I think he got up at like 3 o'clock in the morning and hopped on a bus at 4 o'clock, and he's at Plainfield North. How was that ride today, Coach?
We're still finishing up that ride and get ready to get here for weigh-ins, but I appreciate getting a chance to be on with you guys this morning.
Yeah, and the kids were probably pretty good for you, weren't they, on the trip up?
Most of these guys are asleep.
That's good.
Well, how's the season starting off for you guys so far?
Well, so far, we're doing okay. We're 4-1 with our dual record, with our one loss in the dual situation, coming to a really good team out of Moline. That's the preseason number 10 or number 11, depending on which set of rankings you look at. So, to have a 20-point loss to them is, you don't want to lose a duel, but when, 2 matches where, my 2 state-ranked guys both got beat, and, one of them got caught and pinned and all that type of stuff, account for 15 of those 20 points, I'd say, it's going pretty well and about as good as it could at this point.
You just need to talk to the Elmores. I know you got an Elmore on there. Hasn't there been Elmores there for like 20 years now, wrestling for you?
It's a really good Harlem Wrestling name, and one of those Harlem Wrestling families that, we've got 2 of those names that have been around the program for a really long time, with the Heacock family and the Elmores, and to have Dylan wrestling in his senior year and be able to bring back a quality person like Derek finishing up his wrestling career at Northern Illinois has been a huge impact and made a positive stride in our program.
In high school, you played both football and wrestling, and now you're had a chance to coach both at this level. Other than obviously the differences in the sports, is there any kind of difference in how you deal with the kids?
No, I try and treat the kids with respect and treat them as adults, because these are young adults that we're starting to work with. They are going to make some bad decisions and vertebrate things, but they're 15 to 18-year-old people, and that's what you do when you're that age, is you make mistakes here and there, and trying to make sure you work with those guys and be patient with them. But in the same breath, there's no time like the present to start getting things all squared away and right.
I don't think people who have never been to a high school wrestling match realize it is a sport you have to be well in condition. You have to have that stamina and stuff. How do you get that about? Because they're also got to keep at a certain weight so that they can wrestle. So there's a lot of things you got to do. It's just not throw a kid out there and let him get on the mat.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that go into wrestling, and early mornings are just one of those little pieces of the puzzle. And as I was driving in this morning, I woke up at 3:30 as I was driving up to the school. I saw a bus, and I just knew it was right heading to a wrestling meet somewhere. And that's just one of those types of things that the kids that participate in the sport, get a lot out of the sport. But they make a lot of sacrifices, around the holidays, with Thanksgiving and Christmas being, huge eating holidays and times where families gather around the dinner table. Some of these guys are really limiting what they're able to eat during those holidays, and making those sacrifices for these guys again that are 15 to 18 years old. That's huge.
You have to have a deep team if you're going to compete for conference or at the state level, those kind of things. But where's the strength of your team this year? What weight classes, what guys are kind of the standouts for you?
Yeah, I feel like the top of our lineup is pretty tough. We've got a senior laden up there up top from 170 to heavyweight. We'll get a lot of seniors and guys that we're counting on to, not only have success in the conference, but also make some waves in the individual state series, and advance to sectionals and state finals and all that type of stuff on the individual level. We got a lot of those guys up at the top that are seniors. But we also got some really tough lower weight guys too. With got a really tough 6-pounder and Jacob Hayes. Max Brown's doing a good job at 113, and we got Dylan down there, and also Alex Zakaric, and we got some guys down there at the bottom too that can hold their weight. We just need to continue to work to improve on what is an untested and really young group there in the middle of our lineup.
Did you have to, when you first came in, I know you lost a couple kids, but is that one of those things where you just have to get to know where the kids are from and what they're doing and how you're going to place them? Because they can, from a freshman to a sophomore, there are going to be a lot of physical changes in a high school student.
Absolutely. I mean, every year when you're talking about high school student, freshman to sophomore to junior, and junior to senior, there's huge advances, and and where they're at physically, and the things that they're capable of doing athletically, and what their body's able to kind of hold up to. So sometimes those guys kind of make big strides, and you see guys make a huge difference in where they're at from their freshman year to their sophomore year, and continue through that process. So it's kind of an always juggling act. You're trying to keep all the balls in the air, and just make sure everybody's advancing and getting better day to day, week to week.
Obviously in wrestling, you get a wide range of weight classes there. What are some of the differences in coaching maybe somebody at that 106-pound level to somebody at that heavyweight? And does that give maybe the kid that maybe is younger that matures physically as he goes on, does they maybe have an advantage if they start off at a lower weight class and kind of work their way up as they get older?
I don't think there's a doubt that it's a little bit easier to be a little bit more competitive when you're a younger guy at the lighter weight classes, because you're dealing with a lot of guys that are younger and not really physically matured. It's really tough for those guys that are super young and also big bodies to go out there, and you ask a kid that's 285 pounds and only a freshman that's got a lot of the baby fat and hasn't quite developed the muscles and all that stuff that come with growth and age and all those types of things. It's tough for those guys to compete. So you don't see a ton of guys that are super successful competing in those upper weight classes that are freshmen, sophomores. They do exist, but you're really lucky to find one of those guys.
We're talking with Harlem's new wrestling coach, Patrick Babcock. And one thing about the Nick 10, we were talking about it before we came on the air with you, it's getting very competitive. You always had Hononegah in there, but it seems like East and a couple of the Rockford schools have kind of pushed that up a little bit. Is it going to be competitive again this year, Coach?
Well, I think anytime you're talking about wrestling, it's a sport that really helps to have established kids clubs and those types of things. And the Rockford Wrestling Club's been around for years. I actually grew up through the Rockford Wrestling Club and did all my wrestling at the junior high and through the Rockford Wrestling Club there at Rockford East. And some of my teammates from Stillman also wrestle for the Harlem Cougars. So having those established kids clubs has been huge, and obviously having one that wrestles in our wrestling room and comes in right after we're done with practice is a huge asset to us, and the numbers growing in that are really positive for the future of the program.
How many of these kids maybe look into wrestling? I know it's becoming big in kind of the MMA world, or it's really been big. How many kids maybe get into that with maybe an eye towards that down the road?
I think that the mixed martial arts stuff has become a big recruiting tool and a big area for exposure for our sport. Obviously, sport wrestling's a sport that it's kind of a niche sport. It's not something that everybody really can go to a wrestling meet and necessarily understand what's going on. Mm-hmm. Kind of like going to a rugby match, and most people don't really necessarily know what's going on. They can probably identify when something really good happens or something really bad happens. But necessarily knowing and following the action 100% is kind of a little bit difficult for some people. It'd be like somebody from Europe coming over and watching a game of football here in the NFL. Mm-hmm. They may not be able to know exactly what's going on, but they can tell when a touchdown got scored, or they can tell when an interception gets thrown for a touchdown. They know which ones are good, bad, but they don't necessarily know the ins and outs and all those types of things. So trying to continue to grow our sport and get it out in the forefront. Educate people on our sport and let people know we have a great sport that's really entertaining and really fun to watch.
And Harlem has one of the probably one of the best tournaments in the state of Illinois and in the Midwest, and you guys are getting ready for that. And you got some teams coming in from out of state again this year?
Yeah, we got teams coming in from Iowa, Wisconsin. We've even got a team that's coming up from Florida. We're making arrangements so that they get a little access to a wrestling room and those types of things. It's important to kind of get our guys exposed to that tournament. There's even some cases where people have placed better at the individual state tournament here in the state of Illinois than they did at the Dvorak tournament. So it's a huge asset for our guys to have and for our area to have for the elite teams to come to and kind of really test their mettle against guys from not only around the region, the state, the region, but also the country. Getting guys to come up, getting a great program from Florida to come up is a great exposure for our guys to get quality matches.
When we look at the meet you're at today, at Plainfield North, what kind of competition are you guys going to get today?
Well, we actually got 4 duels on the schedule today. We're going to see a really good Willowbrook team to start the day off. They got 2 kids that are ranked number 2 in the state, the preseason rankings, and two or three other kids that are honorable mention. Throughout the whole day today, we're going to see 1 kid that's ranked number 1, 4 kids that are ranked number 2 in the state, and 12 kids that are listed in the preseason rankings combined total through the 4 duels. So this will be a great day for some of our guys to get matches against the best guys in the state, and that's exactly what we want this time of year, is to kind of get that measuring stick and see where your guys are at.
For you, I think it's been a good change from going from coaching high school football to wrestling. Have you enjoyed the adjustment so far, Coach?
Yeah, I've enjoyed. I got to work a little bit with Coach Morrow there in the football season as well with the football program. It's been a good experience for me to just kind of get a chance to take the back seat through football season and really kind of focus a lot of my energy and all that type of stuff on the wrestling program, and trying to grow the numbers and get the lineup full, which we've been able to do. Is get that full lineup, which is a huge part of compete with a team like Honolulu that's not only just has a full lineup, but they're pretty solid all the way through it too. So not just giving away those 6 points for forfeits will be huge for us. Competing for a conference championship and a regional championship and those types of things. But it's been an awesome change for me.
Before I let you go, you talked about mixed martial arts. Were you surprised Ronda Rousey got thumped like she did?
I think a lot of the people in the mixed martial arts world and people that followed it are a little bit surprised. Can't say I follow that extremely close. I'm more of a fringe watcher of mixed martial arts, but mixed martial arts is a huge deal as far as recruitment and what our kids actually like, and it drives a lot of their interests for the sport of wrestling, and if that's a tool that we can use, then that's definitely something we're going to use.
Well, thanks so much, Coach. I know you got a busy day today, 4 duels and everything, for coming on today. We sure appreciate it, and good luck to Harlem, and always nice talking with you.
All right, I really appreciate you guys taking the time to cover wrestling and get some interviews on it. It's a great sport, and encourage the people from the local area to get out and watch your local wrestling teams.
Thanks, Coach. We've been talking with Patrick Babcock, the new head coach at Harlem, and I can tell he's excited. He's got a Twitter account up, and he's doing that stuff, and when I got a hold of him yesterday, it took about 2 seconds to get back. And, sometimes you got to promote your own sport like you're doing with wrestling.
Yeah. And I'll say this. I've been to that tournament at Harlem there a couple times, and it's unbelievable to see, just wrestling just everywhere and all sorts of, great competition, things like that. I mean, that's one of those ones, if you get the chance to get out and see that, I absolutely recommend people getting out to that.
If you ever go by the Dvorak when they're having that?
Yeah. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, you got to be careful when you get down to that area.
Yeah.
I'll have to go over that. I'll have to go and see that.
Yeah, it's good. It's absolutely worth going to.
And we didn't say it, but Patrick Babcock was a state champion, I think, in the heavyweight division, or one of the higher divisions at Stillman Valley. So he knows what he's talking about.
He absolutely does.